All right, should we go ahead and get started?
I think we're ready to get started. Hello, everyone. It's very good to see you. Thank you for coming and for joining our session today.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Cindy Beabout. I am a program support specialist and coach for ECPL, and my work is in the field. I work with teachers, administrators, instructional leaders, and family educators, and I love ECERS-3, so I'm really glad that you're here because there's not too many people that say that. But I'll tell you, I did make a transition. There was a time when ECERS-3 was really something that just mostly made my life miserable. So I've worn those shoes as well.
Hi, and good morning, everyone. First, as a member of the ECPL team, we're just so glad you were all able to get out of your buildings and come here, whether you were here last night for the social part of it or just for the day today. It's really good to see all of you face to face. We've seen a lot of you in 2D on Zoom, so it's nice to actually meet you in person. So thank you for coming. Again, I'm Kathy Villano. I'm a former school administrator, and now I have the cohort of program support specialists that work with all of the expansion programs. I'm not her boss. I'm just her go-to person on the phone when it all goes crazy. Or I love to call her and cheer her on about all the work she's doing in the technical assistance, because these programs are a heavy lift. Whether it's Preschool for All or expansion, these are a heavy lift. I was never monitored on ECERS-3. I know it well. I've been trained on it. I was monitored on ECERS-R. Many times on ECERS-R. My next to last year as an administrator, I had 42 classrooms monitored on ECERS-R. So I kind of lived it, right? I was like, what do you mean we were missing whatever? What do you mean you forgot to read because you were hyperventilating? What do you mean all of these things happen? Life happens, right? And so one of the things we're going to do today is give you a quick overview of ECERS-3. We're just going to give you some quick content, and then if you need to do the deep dive, there are other ways to do it. We're going to try to get you out with some good information today, but if you think you're leaving 1 hour as an ECERS-3 expert, probably not, but we'll get you as much as we can, as quickly as we can today.
How do we make it go?
So we do this. They switched ours. There we go.
Oh, okay.
So we have a couple quick objectives, right? We're going to sort of build your knowledge on ECERS-3 in how it actually looks in a classroom. How many of you are Preschool for All? How many of you are Preschool for All expansion? Okay, how many of you supervise teachers? We say a fair amount of you. How many of you are in a building where pre-K is like you had an empty room so the superintendent put it there, but really you thought you were a K-6 principal or an administrator? So we appreciate in those situations you have, you know, like 3 minutes a week to go to the pre-K room unless there's a crisis, and all of a sudden you're hearing about these people from McCormick and like, what? So, you know, we're here a little bit to help you with all of that too.
And I think we have some instructional leaders.
Yay, those are my people.
Yes.
Good.
Yes, okay.
So what does excellent teaching practice look like? And it's not driven by ECERS, but ECERS is embedded in it, right? And we do want to help you build on your knowledge of the learning environment using the ECERS-3 tool as exemplars of excellence. That really is important.
All right, so here we are. My hope is that we can just kind of walk through what it would look like if you're going into the classroom. That is not what it looks like on our screen, Kathy. Look up there. Nothing's moving. That is not good.
Special. Wait a minute.
Okay.
We're
All
good.
right. I'm not going to look
They
at
don't
that.
want us up here being upset about it. They just want to know about ECERS-3, so we're going to
Okay.
go.
So here's what I want to do is I really want to walk through what you as an administrator, instructional leader, whatever your role is, what should it look like in the classroom? Well, what's happening is prepared before that child even walks through the door. That teacher has a lesson plan. She knows what to do before. She has a clear lesson plan, and she starts with the very first child entering the door. A welcoming environment where the child is being welcomed, called by name, and there is a routine with visuals that support the child knowing what classroom expectations there are. Here at the top we have an arrival time routine. Now this is different for different schools, obviously. This one starts with a check-in, and here they put snack, lunch away, and water bottle away, hang up their backpack and jacket, wash hands, make a choice. Sometimes you have question of the day, and that would be a spot where the child is checking in. The teacher would be reading that display, and the child is making their choice. So I'm wondering, what kind of, so now this is a question to you. So now what kind of learning objectives are happening at this moment? They've arrived at the door, the children have been welcomed, there is a routine that includes, this little fellow here, this is a school where I was a coach, this is a little fellow who is on his arrival, he's checking in with his emotions. What is he feeling? So the question here is, how are you feeling today? And then the child can go back and change that if his emotions is part of the emotional learning that's happening in that particular classroom. So now my question to you is, if you were walking into your classroom and as some of these things were happening and you saw those visuals and you saw that interaction, what learning objectives are already happening? Thoughts?
So when you think about ECERS-3, pretend like you are employed by National Louis University. What sorts of things are you already saying?
Okay,
meeting this, meeting that,
yes,
meeting
so
this, meeting that. Look in the book
in
if
your
you
book,
want.
turn to page 13. I want you to think IELDS. I want you to think learning objectives. What kind of learning is happening? But then we're going to connect it to ECERS. Page 13. I'm thinking, look at language and literacy, 12 to 16. Does one of those jump out at you?
No wrong answers.
No wrong answers. Becoming familiar with print. And if that teacher is pointing at the question, now that child is following left to right and seeing these words as they are really relevant to his day.
What else?
Anything else that's happening here? What other things? Now, okay, let's jump down to interaction, 28 to 32. On page 13. What do you see there? What's a potential ECERS item? Individualized teaching and learning. She may be supporting this little one who is really struggling with making a choice on his feelings, trying to build his emotional literacy, right? Okay, how about this one here? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We've got teacher-child interaction going on there. Now go down to program structure. Is there anything in there that might be happening? Remember, the children are coming in, they're checking in, putting stuff away. Pardon? Routines. They've got routines going on. And I wonder about wait times as they're going through all those things. Do you think the teacher is cognizant of flow? She's cognizant of flow so that there's not a lot of wait time, so that the children are getting these things done in a way that is keeping them engaged and not waiting in lines and getting things done. So that is really the way the day starts, from the moment they come in the door.
So you as an administrator are helping out on unloading at the front door of the school as, 100 preschoolers tumble out of cars and buses, and you grab two little hands and you walk down to the classroom to help. As an administrator, how much have you already captured about the quality of how the morning is starting, aligned with an instrument that's research-based that talks about highest level of expectations? So if you're not used to evaluating, I know you're going to Danielson, I know you're going to do like all of those things we did, but look at how much critical research-based knowledge around quality of excellence based on our identified state instrument you can pick up in a 5-minute interaction around, was the teacher ready? Is the paraprofessional maybe aware of some key things they could be doing because this might not be the teacher? How much of this is already happening? And it's aligned with ECERS. It's just embedded.
And I'd like to go just a little tiny bit deeper before we go to the next slide where we're actually going to dig into this tool. If you could take just a moment and keep your thumb on page 13 so you can get right back to page 13. and jump over to page 45, because this was the first one that you brought to my attention, was that, yeah, we're becoming familiar with print right here at the moment the children are walking in at the very beginning of the day. And so now we're looking at page 45 in ECERS, item 16, becoming familiar with print. And so how deep does the teacher go here? If we look at 16, let's take a look. Staff show, this is 5.2, staff show that print is useful, a tool as they explain how or why they use it. Even in the good category, here we have staff point out and read print to children. This picture that a teacher submitted to me, I zoomed in on this little fellow, but the big picture, the teacher is standing right here. She is standing right here, and she is supporting this child, and she is reading the words. So we are right here, just on this one indicator. We are meeting ECERS, and as we saw, it's language and literacy, interaction, and program structure, and you can go dig deep down into the indicators of each item, and you see excellence in action. So let's take another look. Let's see, how did you do that?
I'll do it in a minute. Are you aware of the scoring of ECERS? What's the number everybody wants? 7, although you'll take a 5.
Okay, so let's talk about how that happens. So you're back on your, let's take a look at, let's stay on that page 45. That's a good one to look at. Okay, you stay on that page 45, becoming familiar with print. And the way this is designed, the top is always your notes for clarification. And then on page 45, you see across the top, 1 to 7, we all want 7s.
But we'll take a 5.
We'll take a 5. But you
On a
must,
rest day.
when you look at the inadequate ones in that column, those must not be present. They should all be no's. And then you go to the minimal. And here we saw the one that we saw present here. Staff point out and read print to children. That was the teacher that was pointing out that emotional check-in. And then we go up to good. And we go up to excellent. And what I have teachers do is when they are looking at this tool, you want to look at the bottom of each indicator, and it'll say observe once, observe twice, observe 3 times. It's not a checklist. It's about, whoa, this must be important. This must be an excellence in action. These are exemplars. These are exemplars of excellence that when you walk into the room, you should be happening.
Yes.
Yes.
How many of you have actually seen a monitor report that's come back to your program? Okay, so you know what it's like. One critical change that the State Board and McCormick made that I appreciated as an administrator is you'll go into a classroom and you'll see 777, but they forgot or they did something in that 3 area inadvertently, and that becomes a default point for scoring. But they didn't used to also acknowledge that I saw all this really solid, strong, high-end stuff going on, but you know, you forgot this, and so therefore we default to there. The new scoring reports acknowledge how good your people are, and they acknowledge that they're human, right? A stranger walks in with a clipboard, and you've been saying to them for 6 months, they're coming, they're coming, they're coming. Are you ready? Let's practice, let's whatever. You don't want to do that, but you naturally do that, right? As administrators, we want gold standard programs. We know we've hired the best. We know they are the best. We want these strangers that come in for half a day to see that and validate it, and it just organically makes people nervous. So something might happen. So it's really nice with the new scoring that you see the whole range.
And when you get that, you have to look at that strength. Look at those strengths. Don't look, you know, it's color-coded, right? You got that red down there and a 3. But you look at the greens up in the 7s. Look at the strengths. And that is how you should look at it with your teacher, is first taking a look at those strengths, and then what is it that happened that day, and what excellence maybe can the teacher be reflective on. And that is a great way to help develop your CQUIP.
And let's remember, it's not just the teacher. Every adult in the room matters.
Yes.
So your paraprofessionals matter. If you are so blessed that you have a speech therapist or a social worker or an OT who's in your room, they matter. A substitute teacher matters. I know if they come in a building and they're doing 6 or 8 rooms and there's a sub in one, sometimes the monitors will try to work with you. But I had subs monitored, and they're wonderful people. And the scores didn't look like the regular teacher's scores would have. And that's life, though. Those children still had a wonderful morning in a wonderful environment. But we had a sub, right? So it's okay.
It happens.
Yes.
So you said that they don't default to the lowest number?
They do default to the lowest
Yeah,
number.
scoring
They do.
stops wherever they saw the ding. Okay, that's where scoring
Where
stops.
something was missed.
Something was missed.
That's where the scoring stops, correct?
The
They didn't change it yesterday, did they?
No.
I mean, I'm
The-
just checking. Things
the
happen
scoring
quickly
stops.
in this
So
world.
that sounded confusing because we said they continue on
They
through the
still
sevens.
note the quality things that they see across
Yes.
the whole instrument. But where something is missed, your scoring stops there.
If you've been around a long time, they didn't always do that. Back in the day, they did not score up. Like as soon as you
They
got the
just
ding, they
stopped.
stopped. And
Right.
it's like the teacher would feel so depleted and so
Right.
disrespected for their hard
Right.
work because they did so much excellence. And so the way it is scored now, when you are looking at that, don't forget to look at the excellence that was seen. There may have been something in the threes column that was missed that day, but there are likely things in the 7 column that did happen. But does that mean we should neglect that? No, we should explore that. We need to explore that because it's an exemplar of excellence and it will bring the whole experience for the child to a higher level. I'd like for you to quickly take a look at page 13 because this will help orient you to how ECERS is designed. Here we have the subscales. There are 6 subscales with 35 items. Okay?
Yeah, don't do the math on us. Just say, yeah, we know.
Yeah, we know
How
that.
can they
The
possibly
35
teach normal
items.
people this?
And then in each item, you have indicators. So those are, when I say indicators of excellence, that's when you're looking at, for example, on indoor space, just the next page over 15. These on the page that are scored from inadequate to excellent are indicators of excellence. Okay.
Research-based, not just a good idea. All of the international research with ECERS-3 says that children in a classroom that score between 5 and 7 outscore peers forever. Language, math, social, emotional, interactions with peers and with adults. It is solid research, not just a little group of 20. International. It has crossed language barriers. It has crossed economic groups. These classrooms produce lifelong learners. It is a goal you need to work for.
Okay. Is this one?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
It was yay, right button. Okay, here, let's make another transition. We've walked in the door, and now we are transitioning to circle time. We've already had a lot of important learning happening at those first 10 minutes of transition. And here we have time where the children are sitting, but it is not just sitting. It's a balance of sitting, listening, responding, and movement. And here we come to the first word that I'd like us to think about. And the words you can find on the explanation of terms on page 10. And the first word is engaged. What does it mean to be engaged? And on page 10, we see engaged means children are, it's number 2 if you're looking for it, second column, number 2. It means children are interested and paying attention. I'm not going to read the whole thing. You can all read it. But look at the children in the picture here. These children are engaged and their eyes are, does this mean that if one child starts messing with their shoelace that we're going to get scored down? No. Is the teacher then notices, the teacher draws that child in. Another thing of excellence that you may want to see here at Circle Time is there is the child that really struggles with being focused. And that child is, oh, come over, sit by me. Can you sit over here? So the teacher's now individualizing. That is a kind of ECERS kind of individualizing, meeting the need of that particular child on that particular day. So the teacher is doing many things. She is looking to see if the children are engaged, and if they are not, she is going to change gears. She is going to change to a finger play. She is going to change and get them up and moving. She is attuned. So when you walk into the room, you want to see a teacher who is not just getting through the motions, doing that calendar time. And speaking of calendar time, is calendar time developmentally appropriate? Now, I've seen calendar time where the teacher is using it as a linear tool to help the child see movement from left to right. She has patterns going, you know, flower, sunshine, flower, sunshine. So maybe there's some learning going on there, but it is not developmentally appropriate to have the concept of time, the concept of days of the week. Those rote kind of things are not what we're seeing at circle time. The things we are seeing are children engaged. You should see visuals, a visual schedule of the day. A visual schedule of the day where the children are engaged with that schedule and the teacher is discussing what is going to happen next. First this, then that. And we may also see, and we should see, that the expectations are very clearly reviewed. So the children at this time are learning about what is happening today. This is our morning meeting. They're engaged. There is input and conversation with the children. It is not a sit and get. It is teacher-child interaction.
And please, administrators, don't expect 20 pre-Kers nicely sitting on little squares, eyes at the teacher, listening devotedly. That's not a developmentally appropriate expectation. They are distracted literally by the shoelace next to them. Right. That's normal. It's okay, but it's how the teacher continues to move the group. Certainly, as you get towards this time of year, I would think that the morning meeting or afternoon gathering flows a little better. But in the fall, you're just grateful they all are sitting there and they've quit crying or throwing up or whatever it does when they walk in the room, right? These are very little people. You've got children on IEPs. You've got children that don't understand you because English is not their first language and it is your first language. Hopefully you've got that bilingual support. You may or may not. There are so many factors going into this. But again, the framework of what you've designed and what we're looking at is the quality framework to bring these children into. Mm-hmm. And the ECERS lays it out for you.
Yes. And so here again, there are a lot of excellences in ECERS that you can see happening at circle time. When you are seeing engaged children, children that are responding. For example, I'm even often seeing science happen at the morning meeting. Somebody looks out the window. They graph the weather. Now we are doing graphing. They may also be doing a graph of the question of the day if they're using the question of the day, which is kind of a creative curriculum thing. It is really an opportunity for a lot of excellence. So if we are just taking a quick look and thinking about circle time, look again. I'm going to be going back to page 13 again and again and again. What excellences might you see? Just give me some numbers. Just throw out some numbers here. What excellences, what ECERS items might be observed by you when you walk in the room during morning meeting or circle time?
So you're bringing in that last late kid who finally got there. Mm-hmm. You're dropping them off at the room. You've done all those greetings and hanging and unpacking, and now you've joined Teacher Cindy's morning meeting. What are you seeing?
What might you see?
Just throw it out.
Throw
There's
out a
no
number.
wrong answers.
30, pardon? 12. Helping children expand vocabulary.
Absolutely.
Encouraging children to use language. I heard other numbers.
30, somebody said 35?
35. Whole group activities for play and learning. Absolutely. 33, transitions and waiting times. And you know, that is going to be a nice segue that she brought up that one, because that is going to bring us to what happens next. If there's another transition, you've got these children sitting and waiting. How long is that transition to what comes next? There? Yeah.
Yep. All right. So, free choice time. So this is really dependent on the layout of your room, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about floor planning. We're going to talk a little bit about classroom design. I know a lot of your curriculum books and your vendors, you know, Lakeshore, all of these people, they give you these lovely maps of what your room could look like. You've all seen them. And then your pre-K teacher walks into the room that you've actually given them with the materials you've actually gotten out of the basement for this new classroom, with a few ordered from your flatly funded budget. And you've just got to do the best you can. You've just got to do the best. However, there are some absolutes. You must create centers, right? It's not just an open flow. You need to define learning centers. Your curriculum talks about it, and so does ECERS. And there are 5 of them. I made the mistake one year of telling my teachers science wasn't a center. Science lived everywhere in the room, and so science was everywhere in the room, and the monitor came in, and then I got my report, and they said, you need a science center. Yeah, well, I tried. So the next year there was a table and there were tools and there was still science everywhere in the room. But what I had been able to do is get teachers off of their science as a magnifying glass. I was able to get them to think broadly about how important it is, but then I also had to think about the fact that the kids do need a space where the tools live and the scale lives and certain things live. So these are the 5 recommended centers. You may find yourself merging 1 or 2, like some of you might merge your cozy area and your library. So then you create another dedicated center with all of the items that you need. Here's the other thing I'm going to tell you as administrators. Quiet and loud need to be separated, right? Not every center is the same size. You need to think about that. You also need to think about how many students can appropriately be in a center at a time, and you might need systems for that. What are centers that you find get overcrowded quicker than you wish? Blocks, dramatic play, where else? Where the chicks are hatching, right? If you're lucky enough, there's 14 kids trying to, peer at a chick. What other kinds of things? So do you create systems for that? Yeah, and that's okay. It's okay. Now, you can't have a chart where you say, okay, the blue diamonds come now for 10 minutes and then the red squares come for 10 minutes. That's not what free choice is about. But you might have to crowd control. And you do it in a way that's reasonable, right? And tell the children up front. I've seen teachers have little clipboards. Kids are happy to put their little name or their little symbol or whatever their squiggle is on a clipboard. You do have to be safe, and you need to be able to have the children adequately play and explore and use the materials without overcrowding. So you'll have to sort that one out in your own environment. And I'm going to go back to another really important schedule piece. How long does free choice time last? Oh, so you're safe.
Okay.
I know. So when you dismiss them, once they start, that's when free choice starts.
When the last child leaves the carpet and is engaged, that's when free choice starts.
And when you say it's time to clean up, free choice has ended.
That's ended.
So there's mathematical rules in there.
It's on page 10.
Right. They would say for a 2.5-hour session, it's 50 minutes unless you have, what adds 5 minutes to that? Open, if snack is a choice, and I highly promote snack as a choice, then you add 5 more minutes. But I would do exactly what she said. If you can find a way to do it, I would go at least an hour of choice time.
Yes,
and do kids have to get to every center on every given day? No.
And if you are a 3-hour program, you have to have that 60 minutes, and if you put a snack time in that, you need to add that 10 minutes. So then
So
it's an hour and
watch
10
it.
minutes. And of course, as Kathy said, it's when that last child leaves the carpet and is engaged, and when you stop for cleanup, when you announce that it's cleanup time, because now we're in a new transition.
We're in a new transition. And so the book talks about these centers. Some of your curriculum, I'm really impressed with publishers who've actually created ECERS checklists for ordering. If you call your Lakeshore rep or whoever you're using, some of them actually, they give you, you know, edit, modify, look and see what's really appropriate. But they've done some work for you. Go ahead if that's what you need to do. I would always prefer you base it off the standards, but I also appreciate a grant that you get awarded in October to open the rooms in January, and there's sort of like this panic. So then you need to do just whatever you need to do.
Can I just put a little funny little thing that I see as a problem in more than one place that I've served? Okay, so you order like that, and you order off of Lakeshore, and you get all the STEM, all these STEM materials, and then you put them in your science, right? It
Well, I didn't, and it
depends
caught
on
me.
the material. Some of that STEM stuff is math. Some of that STEM stuff is science. Some of it belongs in different parts of the room. I've gone to more than one room where we bought it, it said STEM, so they put it in science. And they had so many manipulatives in science that were very creative and really did get the children's brains thinking, but they were manipulatives.
Yeah.
And they belonged in the math and manipulatives area.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the adults in the room, their vocabulary and their actions during this time matters. I know that every cell in your brain as a teacher is saying take pictures, do their portfolios, load it up, get it done, whatever, whatever. You really need to be down with the kids, and the language matters. Not be quiet, don't throw, you know, those kinds of things. You need all of the adults in the room. And I always say this, you've got parents maybe back in your schools finally volunteering. Find a center that they can be super successful in. Maybe give them a 3x5 card with some words that they could be using, some language. Give them a way to interact, because this is language, this is vocabulary, this is math, this is social emotional, this time is critical. Adults need to have some capacity to be visually scanning the room. So that's the other thing. If all the adults are sitting in one area, they're not scanning the whole room. So make sure your adults are moving around. You don't always have to be seeing everything. And the child that goes to the cozy corner to have some quiet time, don't leave them isolated. Pop by every now and then. Oh, you're reading. How you doing? You know, there's something cool going on over at art. You want to come join us? Don't seclude them off. They are not meant to be left alone forever. They might just need a little quiet time. But as an adult, you do want to peek in and out.
And this is what you would see when you're coming in the room, is that the teachers during choice time are engaged in the various interest areas. They are in dramatic play. They are in the blocks. What happens in blocks? It's geometry. It is so important.
It's physics.
It is a place for building, but it is a place where math learning and language learning are happening, and the teacher and para engaging with the children to expand their vocabulary, to get their thinking as they are constructing these buildings.
Do you want me to move to that
Yep,
slide?
let's move on to
There.
the next one.
And again, lesson planning. It's not unusual for teachers, for a team when they're lesson planning, to maybe talk about who's going to monitor these three and who's going to monitor those two. So people sort of can think about where they're going, maybe in your sub-plans. Yes?
Can you go over one more time what can be in blocks and what can't?
I'm getting there. That's my next slide.
Yeah.
You know,
And look at that. So what kids are going to draw to block centers they're going to bring, but let's talk about what
So
it's
let's just think a little bit. I think what you really are asking is, what's the difference between an interest center and a play center? Okay, so let's get to the definitions.
And you're also asking, can all the plastic animals be there because they want it to be a zoo?
Right. Okay, so let's first understand the definition a little bit more clearly. So I'm going to read it. I'm on page 11. It's number 5. A play area is a place where play materials are provided for children to use. Well, that's a good thing, right? It's good to have play areas. An interest center is a clearly defined area for a particular kind of play. That I think you need to totally remember as we look at this slide. And I'm just going to, if you read on page 11, it will reiterate some of the things that Kathy said about the appropriate amount of space that is needed for the kind of play that's happening there. In blocks in particular, it should be large enough for 3 large structures to be built. And so this is just a little side note thing that I saw somewhere. Maybe it was in one of the EASY programs, where a teacher had a very large block area and she taped out a space for going to get your blocks. Because if children are building right next to the blocks, if another child comes in, a second or third child, and they knock it over, now all of a sudden that space is not large enough because a child's play has been interrupted and the place isn't big enough. So if you've got a nice big space, there can be a zone for getting your blocks, a zone for building your blocks, and that really seems to help flow. As I mentioned earlier, flow makes a big difference in success and reducing behaviors.
So, and as administrators, when you walk in a classroom, one of the things I want you to look at is if there's a runway that goes down the middle of the room. Sometimes teachers inadvertently, because we anchor things organically, all their centers line up along the wall, and then you've got this big open path, and then the teacher says to you, kids keep running through the room. Well, yeah, interrupt the runway. So Cindy, what's allowed in a block center?
All
and
right,
what
so here, let's
isn't
get
allowed
back to
that
the
I
block
think
center. So
is a
take
block?
a look here. I've got 2 block centers and I've got 2 dramatic play areas. And I use these pictures very particularly because they both say something different. Let's look at blocks first, since you were very interested in blocks. Okay, if you want to open your blocks in your books, I believe it's 22 if my brain remembers. Nope, that's science. Blocks is...
We try not to memorize these books.
Yeah,
We're
it's
not
20.
those people.
Blocks is 20. Blocks is number 20. It's on page 53. And I'm going to read from 1.1, 3.1, 5.1, 7.1 on page 52. This answers her question. The only blocks, and look at these up here, the only blocks that are considered in these indicators is unit blocks, large hollow blocks. And then there's a definition of what that means. I'm not going to read that. Now go down to the next one. 3.1, 5.1, accessories. And I'm going down 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. Types of accessories required, the words required. Small people, vehicles, animals. Okay, now we're looking at these 2 pictures. Now, those words are really important, but the most important thing for you as an instructional leader or when you're looking at what's happening as an administrator, what is the block area saying? What is going to happen? How will the children play? Okay, let's look at the one on the bottom. How might the children play? We have unit blocks. We have large hollow blocks. I think we have people down there. We have vehicles. I don't see any animals. Maybe they're in with the people. That's a problem. Okay, they should be in their own bin. Okay, what kind of play is going to happen right here? They're going to use the buses to knock over a tower of hollow blocks. So, all right, but they built with the blocks and they knocked it over with the buses. Okay. What do those buses say? Those buses, push me, push around, run around, push, 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 go, go, go. So are those conducive? Are those accessories to block building? No. And I even worry about those big, big, beautiful ones on the top because teachers must intentionally teach how these big, beautiful trucks are used for accessories for building. I had a teacher they were construction trucks. They loaded the blocks in the trucks, they moved them to the construction site, and they build. And I watched it. It really did work. But if the children are pushing them around, it's telling the teacher something. The teachers have to know how the children play. They must watch and observe. Are they building? Because they must build. My number one thing when I coach a teacher with the block area is usually reduce people. Make sure you're dealing with diversity in your little people in there. Okay, we want the diversity thing happening. But reduce it so that they are not playing with them for dramatic play. Little girls setting up all the little people, but you didn't build a house for them. Boys taking the cars out. Look at this mat here. What is this road map saying to that little child who wants to take out the little cars? What is that rug telling them to do? Push that car around. Is it saying build blocks? So your question is not just about what belongs in blocks. It's about how children play. Looking at the upper one, and those are the beautiful unit blocks and the beautiful big hollow blocks, super expensive. I mean, so we have legitimate hollow blocks and unit blocks, but here I would say, how am I teaching geometry if they're thrown in a bin? How is geometry happening here? See how geometry is happening up there? You know, I can take out two triangles and I can see that those two triangles, everything's just jumbled up here. It's harder to communicate what these geometric shapes mean and do when they're jumbled together. These are legitimate blocks, and those are legitimate blocks. However, how children play is the most crucial thing there. You may need to minimize people. You might need to minimize animals so that they're not playing with those as dramatic play, but they are engaging in building. Teachers must encourage the children to build. It must be pretty important. It's one of the 5 interest centers that's required for ECERS because it's so crucial for brain development. It's hands-on, it's gross motor, it's real thinking, cause and effect. There's so much learning that goes on here.
You may need to spend time with your teachers, teaching them physics words, teaching them geometry words, having them intentionally think about the vocabulary. Because Jackie Keese, a professor at the Erickson, she said her favorite thing she often asked teachers is to finish the sentence, I went into teaching because I love to teach children about. And she said a disproportionate number of teachers respond, reading, being kind. Nobody ever says physics. Or they don't say math as often as they should, or they don't say science as often as they should. So if you find your teachers could just use a boost in that, 10 minutes at the beginning of a staff meeting. Throw out some preschool appropriate words from physics. You all took that class maybe at some point. Think
Why
about
are
it.
unit blocks called unit blocks? What's a unit? That rectangle is a unit. The two little square ones, that's a
Is a
half
square
a unit.
rectangle,
Two halves
is a
make a
rectangle
whole.
Square. You know,
Wow, we're learning two halves
Right.
make a whole. You know, the two triangles together makes a square, which
Light.
is a half of a unit.
Heavy, roll, all of those kinds of things. Anticipation. If I create a ramp, what's going to happen? We do want you to see this book. We're not giving you this today. It's a $90 book, but you can order it. It's sort of the everything ECERS. It just came out about 1.5 years ago.
Oops, it goes deeper. It goes deeper and answers a lot of your questions that you're having.
Blocks is 10 pages in this book. I don't recommend this unless insomnia has taken over your life.
Yeah.
But if you really, really want
I've
the
read it.
research, or somebody is pressing you, and it's color-coded, and it's wonderful.
It's not hard to use.
Don't give this to a teacher. Please don't. Keep this somewhere as a reference. The other thing we're going to remind you to do is go to the ECERS website every now and then, because they put updates.
And it's ECERS.info, and I just went to that site, ECERS.info, and they've changed their homepage. They've changed what it looks like. You can still get there with ECERS.info. On our last slide, we're going to, and you're going to get this stuff electronically, right?
Yes.
So you're going to be able to see the hot links, so we're giving it all to you.
Should we move
But, well, I just really quickly, I just want to do ECERS.e, it's Environment Rating Scales Institute, ERSI, .info, INFO.
They're the publishers and the
And
researchers.
then it changes you to the new link. It switches to the new link, which is ERSI Institute maybe? It's brand new to me. All right, so really, really quick, because we were talking about interest area. This is really supposed to be about interest area versus play area. So very quickly, I want to look at these the dramatic play. Is that okay? I know I'm taking too long. Okay, dramatic play. At the top, this is a really beautiful dramatic play area. The bottom one, a beautiful dramatic play area. How will the children play? Okay, so it looks like we have 4 chairs, so 4 children are allowed in each. Let's just say that that's a given because there's 4 chairs. Oh, wait, but can I say one more thing? Don't get thrown off by these books. That was because I was supposed to tell you no books and blocks.
Unless it's a picture of structures.
You can do pictures of structures.
Yes.
But because as soon as the teacher, the child sits down with the book, it is now a play area. It is not an interest area. No books and blocks. I mean, that is a general rule. I mean, you take pictures of construction, have some with words on it so you can make reference to words. It helps bring some literacy in. But as soon as the teacher sits down to look at a book with the child, this is no longer an interest area. It is now a play area. So I'm sorry, I forgot to say that.
If you're going to take pictures and you're still a program that does home visits, I've seen teachers take pictures of their child standing outside wherever they live, and then they create a ring of structures of where students live because it's such diversity. Kids love to recreate their homes.
Oh, that is a beautiful example
Think
of
about
how you can bring that in.
That's the other thing. We're trying to give you some fun tips because, like, ECERS straight up could be really boring.
Yeah.
So we want to give you some
We want you to have some fun
ideas.
stuff to take away as well. And in this one, I want you to see that in this one, if 4 children are in here, and if somebody wants to play with that dollhouse, what might be the problem? There's not much space, okay? These are materials for the kitchen, and somebody's standing there playing with the dollhouse. What is likely to happen?
Yeah,
They're in each other's way. There might be some behaviors that start to develop.
Plus, they can't reach the second floor.
So this is why when we say clearly defined interest area for a particular kind of play, the particular kind of play here is home living, obviously. The particular kind of play there is dramatic play with the dollhouse. It's dollhouse play. It cannot be in a space that interferes with the particular kind of play. That dollhouse, as soon as, I mean, it's fine if it's there, but as soon as a child goes and plays with it, it is now interfering with home living play. And so now it is a play area. Is that a bad thing? No. But might it be causing behaviors, causing frustration? How can this possibly be over on the edge outside of home living so that it doesn't interfere and the child can play intentionally and successfully without having somebody say, no, I'm playing here. So that's the point, is that we want a clearly defined interest area.
It does not need to be home living. While I'm moving Cindy to her next slide, what have you turned your dramatic play areas into based on student interest? A zoo? Yeah. What else? Vet office, man, that's a popular one. What else? Grocery stores, campgrounds, what else? Ice cream parlor, right? Those of you that are into project-based learning, it does not have to be this. It has to be rich.
It has to be rich.
And it has to be engaging. But if nobody is going there, it's because nobody's interested anymore.
Yes. And make sure when you say, I love that and I love seeing that, but always make sure that you look back at what is required.
Right.
Okay? It includes dolls. That can be with camping. That can be with the vet. That can be with whatever you have. It includes dolls. Doll-sized furniture. Play foods and cooking and eating utensils. These happen in all those spaces, right? And dress-up clothes for boys and girls. So even if you change the theme, make sure you have required items. So and if you just take it all out and put a tent in there, you're now not really giving them the materials that are required for dramatic play. It needs to be rich.
We're thinking 7s, rich.
Rich, very rich.
Okay. Social skills.
Here we go. All right, now,
about 8 minutes.
Social, we have 8 minutes?
Yeah.
To the end?
Yeah.
Oh dear. Okay. I'm so sorry.
Usually it's a full day.
All right,
sorry,
I'm
Cindy,
going
it's
to
a
go
foul.
real brief here. Social skills should be happening throughout the day. All right, here we have at mealtime, teachers are with the children. We have obviously things happening here. Here we have a child that is problem solving using a solution kit, which comes out of the pyramid model. You can go to their talk later today if you like to, but it is the children learning that they can problem solve with teachers. The key here is not that you use those tools, but that the teacher intentionally teaches the children how to solve problems. And all of this learning, social emotional learning, is happening in the action very intentionally.
Whew, that was fast.
Thank
Okay,
you.
technology.
It could have gone a lot longer.
Don't shoot the messenger here on technology. Are you aware of the guidance for best practices for technology? Okay, the reality is your little ones are on technology all day long in their lives, right? They're on somebody's phone, they're watching somebody's TV. Can't school be the break? I mean, can't this be the place where they are? So when you're monitored, if you have no technology in your room, maybe not. It's an NA. It doesn't penalize you to have no technology. It really doesn't penalize you. You don't have to have technology. I know you do. So you need to go to the NACE guidance. There is a new sort of conversation around the difference between passive technology and active technology. And you are allowed to have 10 minutes of passive technology. What would that be? What would passive technology be?
Like an educational video or a cartoon or...
Non-acting, non-engaging, non-active. So it might be your calendar, it might be a countdown clock, it might be those kinds of things. There was a time where people were afraid their countdown circle that was green, 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 and then gave them that like warning that center time is coming to a close, that counted. That is passive technology, but you really are only allowed 10 minutes of passive. You still get 15 minutes of active technology in a 2.5-hour day. I can't engage in the conversations that you want to have about you want your kids ready to take those kindergarten tests on an iPad, so we're practicing in pre-K, and you're going to do what you need to do in your building. But I'm going to remind you that they're on technology around the clock. We want them to play. So the NACE position statement is available. You're getting the NACE book today. ECERS talks about technology. Do what you're doing. Remember, somebody actively engaged on a computer with a friend next to them watching them. That's 2 people on technology. Think about it. Special ed children on adapted devices are out of the conversation. They are out of the conversation. But a storybook on an iPad is active technology. So think about it. Again, it's one area, but it's important to your monitoring scores, so we brought it up.
I have a question.
Yes?
Teachers like to have, like, during center time, like, only music. Their smart board, and that has, like, a video.
They can just block the video out.
They should block it.
Music
Yeah.
is fine.
Music is
fine.
great, just the video can just be a green screen or a black screen. They
Right.
can just just not have the video going.
So they're just listening to it. They're not, do they have a paper copy? Well,
So then they're engaged.
I would say that is,
In a listening center, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean,
think
it's
that's
like the
fine.
headphones, right? It's the same. We've been doing that for decades. Okay, so don't hold us responsible
That's
to your
not-
monitors, but I would say, oh, that's lovely that they've got a book and they've got the auditory input, because some of you need second language inputs, those kinds of things.
Yeah. I've never seen that counted against somebody.
No. You had a question?
So that time for 2.5 hours for a full day, no?
No,
No. It really doesn't.
no. It doesn't double.
It really doesn't double. And again, we're not the monitors. We're just telling you best practices that these kids live. And I understand I sound like my mother, right? There's going to be evolution in technology and how this all works. Our message back to you is that a quality preschool is not about technology. Quality preschool is kids, adults, play, language. That's what it's about. It's not about more screen time. Screen time has a place. Okay, one last quick area, though, that I do want to hit on is recess. Whoops, nope, it's not recess. It's gross motor time. It's a learning standard. It's a required part of your day. It needs to be planned. They need 20 minutes of gross motor. You may or may not have an outdoor space. You may have to adapt an indoor space, but you need to do it, and there are really specific guidances for it. You need enough equipment to interest all your students, and you need to make adaptations as they need to be. You need to stimulate at least 7 different skills. This may be another staff PD. It's not about be safe, be careful, don't do that, too high, stop, good job, nice fall. You need to have vocabulary. Bring in a Zumba instructor. Have everybody do Zumba and then do a word chart on everything they did and how they moved for your staff. I mean, get them thinking. What does movement involve? Fast, slow, high, low, step, balance. There needs to be vocabulary. They need to plan on their lesson plan gross motor. It's a learning standard. It goes away in kindergarten. Celebrate it in pre-K. That is not recess. That is not everybody stands in the corner with a cup of coffee and plans who's picking up lunch or whatever. It is an instructional part of your day. It's on your lesson plan. Those goals have to be defined.
And it's 7 skills with equipment.
Yep.
It's not just running races. I mean, it's fine to have.
Playground standards are on the websites. You can go to them if you've got extra money and you can build a perfect playground. I'm so happy for you. You'll have to do what you have to do with playgrounds. And remember, there are also weather guidelines. ISB offers them. If you've worked with childcare, you know them. You can be outside much colder than people think. That teacher in the building says below 50, I'm done. We're in for the winter. That's not quite what the cutoff is. There's not bad weather, but there is bad clothing. So this is the time of year to reach back to some families and say, have your kids outgrown their snow pants and boots? I'll take them. Right? This might be the time of year. You might have some moms that are saying, this is my baby, I'm done, you can have them. So you do have to be dressed. You might also have to provide water when it gets up. You need some shade outside, whatever that is. Standards are in there. If you're able to build a playground, build it to the right capacity and level. And you'll do the best you can. You'll do the best you can. Just really quickly, ISB has some really good FAQs that are going up. You've all been to the ISB site. Yes, everybody nods. Of course we've been there. They have a great FAQ in there on student assessment. If you've not been there, because it aligns with the work you're doing, it walks the same walk ECERS does about what's required in a portfolio, what research-based assessment tools are the components of the portfolio, how
Really
often
nice.
do we have to meet portfolios? Do I need to document each objective? And then I'm going to throw out one. Can a picture count for more than one thing? Yes, but one group shot can't count for 20 kids unless you can talk about how it was individualized for each of those 20. So this FAQ is available. Go there, look it up.
It's on the links.
It's on the links.
It's on the links. I've got them here. They're on the links for you. You will be getting those in your inbox.
Narrative summary once a year, but boy, it'd be nice if you did it more than once, but once a year is the requirement. Same thing here.
Here's, we got lesson planning, and this is really in your compliance checklist. It's very specific. Item 10, right? Item 10 in your, there's the FAQ for lesson planning.
Look like this. They're current, they're new, they're aligned to compliance, ECERS, and curriculum.
Just real quick on lesson planning, teachers are required to individualize. Okay, frequency of lesson plans, just go real quick. Frequency, lesson plans should be done weekly. Sometimes teachers do them as daily lesson plans, but when monitors come, they want to see weekly.
They'll want to see 6 weeks worth of lesson
6
plans.
weeks worth of lesson plans. So they should be very intentional and done weekly. The components of the lesson plan, you want to make sure that the objective from their curriculum or the IELBS learning outcomes, I can't remember the words, escaping me, is on there. Yes, is on there. It must be on there for each part of the learning day. So I look on that sheet. I'm telling you, look at the FAQ. Here's what the FAQ says. Components, routines of the day. Large group, small group, outdoors, centers, transitions, and family engagement. There must be a place for the teacher to take note at the end of the day. for the teacher to make notes and reflect, be a reflective teacher. On that lesson plans, not only do you need the objective for each of those components of the day, not just one thing, but for each component of the day, this brings us back to the data, right? The data drives the lesson plan. If the teacher is putting the objective on there as it relates to her assessment data, she is prepping herself, she is prepping her para to tie lesson planning and assessment. The two are going hand in hand. And we must not forget individualizing. There's our links.
done.
Individualizing, we're done.
So-
individualizing also must be on
Okay,
there.
so now that we've overwhelmed you, we'll answer some questions. But on the ECPL website, we do have a 3-hour free on-demand ECERS-3 training. And you can break it down into chunks. You can do little pieces. There's ECERS-3 trainings available. Focus on your curriculum. That's really the IELDS. That's where this all goes back to, right? You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Just go in with good intentions, do your best, learn from it. We'll be around.